Hey everyone, welcome to Permission to Leap, a podcast exploring the stories of people who have brought their visions to life. Each week, I speak with an inspiring guest to navigate the process they took to take the leap in their own lives, from the day they first committed to the day they landed on the other side. Permission to Leap is the spark that will push you to believe in your dreams again and make them your reality. Today's guest is Jessica Geist. Jessica is a rapid transformational coach and therapist dedicated to helping impact-driven women love who they are and get what they want. She's helped hundreds of women let go of fear, doubt, and limiting beliefs so they can confidently create the life and business they desire. Jessica began her career in sales, marketing, and consulting and has worked with Fortune 100 companies like Kraft, Coca-Cola, and Johnson & Johnson, and coached over 100 executives, entrepreneurs, and graduate students. Jessica is a lifelong student of psychology, human behavior, and transformation. She has a master's in learning and change from Northwestern University and a bachelor's in psychology from the George Washington University. In addition, she is a licensed rapid transformational therapist, trained directly by world-renowned hypnotherapist Marissa Peer, is a Hogan Assessment certified coach, and received her coaching training from Northwestern University. Finally, Jessica is an adjunct faculty member and adjunct coach at Northwestern University, Stanford, University of Chicago, Booth School of Business, where she teaches coaching skills and coaches graduate students. Wow. I learned so much. I've known you for at least 18 months, and I've learned so much about people by reading their bios. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. Even hearing you write it, I'm like, wow, we should trim that thing down. It's a little intense.
No, but it's good. I had no idea that you were a adjunct faculty member and coach, and so exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been one of my favorite parts of doing this work. I love working in university systems. It keeps me connected to some new innovation and thoughtware, which is really important to me.
Well, from reading this, obviously, I'm obsessed as well with psychology, human behavior, and transformation. I'm reading the best book right now. I don't have it sitting with me today, but it's amazing. It's transpersonal psychology, and it just my body just thrives on that stuff. I'm I can't get enough.
You'll have to share it with me because I would love to geek out on that with you.
So good. So talk to me, we just briefed a little bit before the call. Talk to me about how you, the transformation of getting to where you are now, and then we'll talk about how that gets brought out into the world.
Sure. So I started off my career in sales and marketing. And I studied, like you heard, psychology undergrad. And I actually wanted to work for the FBI as a criminal profiler.
Oh.
That's why I went to school in DC. I was obsessed and fascinated with abnormal psychology. And so
I watch all of those shows.
Have you seen Mindhunter on Netflix? That's my favorite new one.
I've watched the first few episodes. I haven't dove into the whole thing, but
So
White
good.
Collar and Criminal Minds and even Law and Order and all those things. Obsessed.
Yes.
They're my
yes.
pleasure.
I love them so much. So I've just been always fascinated about the human mind, and I love to look at the abnormal because it always made me really curious to understand what is real and what is not. Because who's to say that a criminal mind or a schizophrenic's mind is creating a reality that's any more or less real than mine or yours? So I love to study that part of it. And I went to school to become a criminal profiler with the FBI. But I quickly realized that when I was entering pre-med that I didn't have the chops in science in order to make it as a pre-med student. And then one summer I was looking for internships at insane asylums, not kidding. And my boyfriend, who is now my husband, was like, I wasn't getting anywhere with it. And he was like, I think you'd be really good at sales. So he introduced me to the student newspaper, and I started a career in sales at that point. And I went on to graduate and do sales for many years, and then went on to marketing at agencies. And after doing that for about 5 or 6 years, I kept on being pulled back to my original love of human behavior and people. And I saw dysfunction in teams and leadership in organizations, which led me to my master's in learning and organizational change. And that's when I also got my training as a coach. And so about 3.5 years ago is when I started my business. And when I began, I was originally doing a combination of coaching and consulting, doing change management consulting and leadership development consulting along with coaching. And I explored a few different avenues for that. But I always found the same problem as a coach. The same thing kept on coming up for me over and over again. And in my own transformational journey too, this experience of taking 3 steps forwards and 2 steps back. And transformation was just always taking such a long time. Why did it always have to take so long? And why was I always sabotaging myself? And as an entrepreneur, what I started to see in my own journey is I would get an idea, I would start to move forward with it. And then as soon as it came to this precipice, like you say, like you talk about taking a leap, as soon as there was an opportunity to take a leap into action or take a leap into doing something like launching the program or asking for the sale, I would get stuck. And I realized over time that for me, it always came down to this belief that I wasn't worthy of creating and receiving what it is that I really wanted in my business. And on top of it, the same problem surfaced over and over again. So I would create a new product thinking that this would be the one that I was so passionate about that I would be able to move through this block around. And there it was, just the same as before. And as I went through this experience, I also saw my finances go up and down and up and down and up and down going, I've been broke twice in my business and gotten out of it twice because of this problem. And so about a year ago, as I've always questing like you, always questing for new modalities, new methodologies for myself, because you can only take your clients as deep as you've been. And also for my clients, I learned about Marissa Peer. I actually met her at an event, a Mind Valley event. And she and I hit it off with her husband. We just became really close friends. And I didn't even know who she was. I didn't know anything about hypnotherapy at the time. And then I experienced the power for work in a room of 300 people, and it blew me open. And I was like, I have to understand what this is. I have to understand how this subconscious reprogramming really works, because that's what hypnotherapy is all about. So that led me down the path of exploring the subconscious mind and understanding the relationship between conscious and subconscious thinking and experiences. And that's when I became a rapid transformational therapist. And since then, I've been on a mission to help women entrepreneurs own their worth and earn their wealth, because what I've learned is that if we are not truly in the belief that we are worthy and that we are enough, it's impossible for us to step into our greatness. We are not able to receive the clients. We're not able to receive the abundance and energetic exchange in money. We're not able to receive the opportunities to spread our message. So I am really focused on doing this now. And I've done it in my own life. I've done hypnosis on myself. I've worked with over 100 clients since April, just doing RTT sessions. And the transformations that I see are absolutely profound. And the breakthroughs that are had are insane. People who are letting go of decades worth of, or lifetimes worth of pain and suffering around a particular issue. So now I'm here in this new place, which is this experience of integrating the conscious and the subconscious to help women entrepreneurs feel more empowered, because my belief is that we are pioneering. Women entrepreneurs today don't really have anyone else to look to other than each other. There's not a lot of history out there for us. So we're kind of creating it together. And if we can heal together as we grow and create together, then I think that we can accomplish anything and really change the world.
Beautiful. I am also obsessed with mind stuff. And it was Joe Dispenza that kind of first introduced me to like changing my mind. And it's so funny because we talk about changing our mind like, I want that. Okay, just kidding. I don't want that. Like we talk about that level of changing our mind. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that we can literally change our mind. You can change the brain chemistry of the neurons in your brain to have different beliefs, to create different experiences, to like really shift everything about your world, your perspective, your life.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I feel like I am almost a broken record about, is the power of thought. And you mentioned Joe Dispenza. I love his work. Also, Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, if you've read any of his work. And Marissa Peer, my friend and mentor, we talk all the time in RTT about how our thoughts, and Abraham Hicks says this too, thoughts become things. And it's absolutely true. And when you choose to see the world around you in a particular way based on your past life experiences, you essentially are living into a story about who you are and about what the world is. And your mind has these frames that it uses to make sense of the world, because your mind is constantly taking in a lot of information. You got to think about your mind as like a computer, right? And so it's constantly looking for shortcuts to bypass and chunk down all of this data that's coming in. And it does that in a kind of a lazy way. And it does that by being like, oh, well, this thing looks kind of like that thing. So, okay, there we go. That must mean this. And, oh, this thing feels kind of like that thing. So that must mean that. So the mind makes lots of leaps of assumption so that it makes it easier for you to understand your world. But when you can learn to slow down and actually be mindful and aware of your thoughts, you can start to see how your thoughts create your reality. And if you can change the way that you think about yourself and the world around you, and then have those thoughts become automatic, that's the key. To have those thoughts become automatic, then you can start living into that new reality with less friction and force. And it just happens versus having to white knuckle your way through change and through dissonance. So that's really what RTT does and rapid transformational coaching does, is help you create that harmony.
Yeah, you said two really important things that I want to revisit quickly. You said the one thing is to like start slowing down your thoughts, right? Which is so important. And the one thing that I think that we all need to remember is that, people talk a lot about like having trauma in their childhood. Mm-hmm. And it's true that a lot of us have had massive trauma in our childhood. And even little things like someone saying something to us, we then, like you said, categorize it as, oh, they said this to me, that means this about me. So I'll give a really vulnerable example. When I was young, I changed my last name, and my dad's parents wrote me a letter that said, you're no longer our granddaughter. Because I changed my last name. Now, those 6 words seemingly are harmless, right? Like they didn't agree with the fact that I changed my last name. But what happened as a 14-year-old was I made those words mean I'm not worthy of love. The people that love me will always abandon me. By me trusting my intuition and taking action on it, people are going to shut me out. And I made all of these assumptions, like you said, the bridges that the leaps that come together. And I made all these assumptions about me. So here I am 20 years later, continuing to play out these assumptions that really what they said to me had nothing to do with me in the first place. It had everything to do with them. And so the process now of being conscious, discerning adults, we get the opportunity to go back, slow down the programming that we're currently having, identify what's going on, like what programming we even have in there, getting to disconnect and unprogram some things and then reprogram new things.
That's so perfectly said, Brie. And thank you for sharing that as well. I just want to honor you that for choosing to share that with everyone. And I'm sure other people who are listening resonate with something like that in their life, of making a decision and then hearing or feeling a response and then creating a meaning around that. And that's what we do in our TT, is that and you've experienced this, what we do is we go back to scenes in your life where you've picked up a belief about yourself or the world around you. And then what we do is we help you create a new meaning about it. So for example, I have a client who had an experience where he was back to school shopping with his mom. Okay, he's back to school shopping, 7 years old, with his mother, and he sees a Thundercats sticker. And he loves Thundercats because Thundercats are the coolest. And he's got a little pencil box that he's holding in his hand. And he's like, Thundercats live in a cave. That's where they live. So I'm going to put these Thundercat stickers in this cave. So he puts them in the cave and in the pencil box. And then They go about the rest of the shopping. They check out, they leave. He's sitting in the car. He opens up the pencil box, remembers, oh my God, look, it's the stickers. Shows them to his mother, who is then like mortified, calls him a thief, and then makes him go back to the store and return the stickers. And he's horrified and embarrassed and doesn't understand. So he makes up a meaning about himself then as a child. If I want something and I desire it and I act in my desire, I'll be punished for it. And so now as an adult, he procrastinates when it comes to getting what he wants and creating what he wants in his business. So these interpretations that we make about our life experiences create symptoms in our daily experiences today that may be seemingly unrelated. But it's not until you have the ability to slow down the mind, like you said, and go back and look at that scene and understand it from an adult's perspective, from a disconnected space, as a viewer of that scene, not a liver inside the scene, that you can actually change the meaning and align it to the truth about you, which is that, you're just a little 7-year-old kid, right? He's a 7-year-old kid. He loves stickers. And, there was no malintent. There's nothing bad. There's nothing wrong there. He's not a thief. He wasn't trying to manipulate or deceive anyone. But this is the meaning that was made. So that's one thing that I love about the work that I've been doing lately in the subconscious, is giving people the opportunity to make that new meaning up about themselves, to really honestly tell themselves the truth about what happened and then let it go so they can move on.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with this stuff. So the other thing, I don't know where this came from. People ask me, they're like, oh, what do you do on Friday nights or whatever? I get asked that a lot. And I'm like, I usually sit in front of YouTube and watch like quantum physics and like brain science videos.
Oh my God. We should have a brain science quantum physics date then, YouTube date, because that's what I do. Every night before I go to bed, I spend an hour geeking out on all this stuff online.
It's so, yeah, I'm obsessed. The other thing you touched on that I want to talk about is longevity. So, oh man, this is the part where when in my work, when I'm talking to people, I'm like, this is the part that's super unsexy, like so unsexy, creating habits. Like it's so hard because our brain pops in and wants to go back to what we've been doing because that's normal, right? Like it's comfortable there, it's easy. And then so we start to build in these habits, bring in these habits of like changing our mind and changing who we are in the world. And our brain is like, no, let's just stay here. Let's talk a little more about longevity and habit building and like, how do you make that change for like a lifetime rather than just today?
A short time. I love that question. And so let me share, I think this might be a good time for me to talk about some of the rules of the mind, because you just mentioned one of them. And as an RTT therapist, Marissa talks about these rules of the mind, and I've seen this. And as soon as I learned these, it made total sense to me around why I was doing some of the things I was doing in my life. One of the first rules of the mind is that your mind does what it thinks you want it to do and what you tell it to. The second rule of the mind is that your mind responds to two things: the words that you say and the pictures you make in your head. And then the third thing is that your mind's only job is to move you away from pain and towards pleasure. So your mind does what it thinks you want it to do and what you tell it to. It only responds to two things: the words you say and the pictures you make in your head. And then finally, it's there to move you away from pain and towards pleasure. So when it comes to habit formation, the other thing to know is that your mind likes what is familiar and dislikes what is unfamiliar, right? That's what you were just describing. So the mind likes what is familiar and it dislikes what is unfamiliar. So when you're creating a new habit, what happens for a lot of people is that they create the new habit from a place of loss of the old, okay? So what I've seen in a lot of my clients is like, oh, I'm choosing to no longer have the thing that gives me pleasure, which is sleeping in, eating pizza, having ice cream, whatever, going on a walk instead of doing my work. In sacrifice, I'm sacrificing what I want to get this thing that's not fun, but I feel like I must do or need to do. And so what happens in that experience is that the mind actually feels your disingenuousness around the desire to create the new habit. It's listening to you saying in the morning, well, I have to wake up and create my to-do list. I don't really want to, but I said I would. So I'm going to because I know I need to do this and it's important. And so your mind is listening. It's going, it doesn't seem like you really want to do that at all. It seems like you'd much rather stay in bed. So here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to allow you to miss setting your alarm, or I'm going to help you hit the snooze button again and just say, I'll make the to-do list in 10 minutes, 10 more minutes. And so it's subconsciously overriding this supposed desire that you have in your conscious mind, because it's listening to you. It's listening to you being like, I'd rather die than do my to-do list, but I'll go ahead and do it anymore anyway. And it's going, you'd rather die? That doesn't sound good. We don't want you to die. We want you to do things that feel good. So how about we eat some Cheetos first, and then we do the to-do list. And then we'll watch Netflix real quick, just for a few minutes, and then we'll do the to-do list. So your mind is going to constantly come up with these really fun ways to move you towards pleasure versus moving you towards the thing that causes you pain, which is why when you're looking to create a new habit, it's essential and vital that you create language and use words that is in alignment with your desire. That's the first thing from a conscious perspective. So it would look like this. Instead of rolling over out of bed and being like, I hate that I have to get up and do a to-do list right now, but I'm going to because I said I would. You would roll over and be like, you know what? Making a to-do list is unfamiliar to me, but I'm changing that now. And today I'm going to wake up and do this to-do list because I know that it's important to me and I really want this other thing. And you want to anchor into the bigger desire that comes to you from doing the to-do list, because we get stuck in the action rather than anchoring into our ultimate desire. Because when I do the to-do list, I make more money and then I get to go on that trip to Fiji. So I so want to go on this trip to Fiji. So I'm going to wake up now and do this to-do list. So that's one of the ways that we can make the unfamiliar familiar, is by changing the language. And also, you feel the vividness of that language, right? You see that picture in your head of Fiji. You see that picture in your head of shopping sprees on Rodeo Drive. You should see that picture in your head of giving back to charity and helping people in impoverished nations, instead of seeing the picture in your head of writing a to-do list at your desk. So if you can learn from a conscious perspective to change the words and the pictures that you make in your head so that you move towards pleasure, and that pleasure is associated with your desire, then it's much easier to create a habit that sticks. Now, that being said, that's conscious work. But you've also got your subconscious mind that's back there holding on to those toxic old beliefs that you're not really worthy of having that trip to Fiji anyway. So yeah, you can tell me that you really want it and you can create a nice picture in your head about Fiji, but I still don't really believe you. So that's what the subconscious work is all about. It's creating the harmony between the conscious desire and the new habit and the subconscious beliefs, so that now this, which is much stronger and more powerful than this, can propel you forward in your desired direction.
I love that. And then the other thing that I think that people overlook as well is that they think, well, the studies have shown, right, that our old studies have shown that it takes 21 days to build a habit. That's not actually true. Like I did a bunch of research for my book, and it talked about how if your habit is like drinking an extra glass of water a day, 21 days. 21 days is good if you want to drink an extra glass of water a day. If you want to change things like taking action in your business or, doing your to-do list or whatever thing that you're looking at doing, it is a much, much longer process, and you have to implement those thoughts, that effort, the subconscious and the conscious, every single day for like months.
Yeah. And that's why I love RTT, because if you're doing the conscious work, which most of us are, there in some way, there's some conscious work happening there. You have the conscious work, and then you've got the recordings that help you wire that in subconsciously. So you're actually doing that reprogramming work in tandem. But if you think about it, there's a lot of complexity in choosing to take more action in your business. It's not a simple process. It's a complex experience. Because if you unpack something like that, there are so many pieces that go into taking action. It's not just like, oh, just take action and you'll be fine. It's like, well, if I could do that, don't you think I'd be doing that by now?
Wouldn't we all be millionaires by now?
Just go sell more. Okay, yeah, sure. Well, don't you think if I could sell more that I would just be doing that right now? And that's why strategies and tactics are amazing, but mean nothing if you can't move through these things. And if you're unaware of them and you don't know that your worthiness and your enoughness is actually the thing that's keeping you from getting up and doing your to-do list or making that sales call, then you're trying to, like a doctor, treat a symptom, but without getting to the root cause. And it's ultimately ineffective. And it's that root cause work that takes more excavation. It really does.
Totally. So in doing this work for yourself, what do you feel like how do you feel like you're different from the woman who started her business, say 3.5 years ago?
Oh, okay. Well, first I want to say I am different in a lot of ways, but I also lapse. I had my coach actually he gave me a beautiful analogy the other day about growth and how you can grow, and you may at times in your life or your business have these experiences where you try to put on the old shoes. It's like a baby. Imagine like growing into a size 10 shoe, but then for whatever reason, you try to go put on a size 3 shoe and your foot's all crammed in there and it feels uncomfortable and you can't even move or walk. I still have those experiences of lapsing back into old patterns and putting on the old shoes. But the difference is that now I can tell that doesn't feel good anymore. So what I would say is one of the big differences that I have is the distinction in the knowing when something is off versus when it's not, when it's on. In the beginning, I was living inside anxiety and depression and fear without the recognition and knowing that it wasn't feeling good to me. Does that make sense? So I was accepting it as my reality, not understanding that there was an alternative experience that was actually more in alignment with who I really was and how I really choose to be. And the hypnotherapy and the deep coaching work that I do, it's not just one, it's in combination. And the spiritual work allows me to be in the awareness and the knowing of the dissonance so that I can be in choice around recreating or creating or reconnecting to what it is that I really want and then pivoting to it. So in the past, I would marinate in that experience of the anxiety. I would just sit and I would cook in it and I would stew in it, and I wouldn't understand how to get out of it because I didn't know what the alternative really was. I would intellectually understand it, but I couldn't physically embody it. And when I started doing the deep coaching work and then adding the hypnosis in, I would have these incredible experiences of being completely in flow. And I can feel the lack of resistance in my life. I can feel the effortlessness of my choices and my actions and my being. And once you know that sensation, if you have an experience where you're taken back, you can be like, ooh, this doesn't feel good. Something is off. What's going on here? I would prefer this. So what do I do now to refocus my energy, my intention back over here on what it is that I really, really want? I just had this experience being here in LA. I've been gone from LA for 9 months. I was first traveling in Spain, and then I came back to North Carolina and South Carolina after going broke in Spain, which is a whole nother story we could talk about another time. But
we'll have to do a part 2. How did you leap back from Spain?
Oh, how do you leap back from being broke? I can tell you that story. Because now we've made over 6 figures in the past. My husband and I combined well over 6 figures in the past, like 2.5 months, 3 months. So it's possible, ladies. If you're there, please know you can do it. But when I came back, I was feeling really good. And then we decided to come back to LA for a month, and it was like putting on an old shoe, man. Like coming back here was super triggering for me. I was telling this at the start of our call. Back into old patterns of anxiety, back into old patterns of second guessing, back into old patterns of trying to be liked and be a certain thing. And the difference is that now I know that I'm out of integrity. Now I feel it, and my mind is overriding these thoughts. It feels a thought comes up, and then my mind, because I've been in training it through hypnosis, is going, no, but that's not right. You are enough. Before it was just like, you're not enough. And there was no counter voice. So now I have this other voice that pipes up and goes, wait, no, but that's not true. This isn't true. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's not true. Why do I feel this way? Ooh. So I'd say that that's been one of the biggest differences, not to mention the fact that, like I said, I went from being broke in Spain to now earning over 6 figures in a few months and creating a bunch of new clients and figuring out a totally new platform for my business. So there's been emotional experiences, physical experiences, but also tangible, real world results. And it's also improved my relationship with my husband. Sex is a lot better. So there's a bunch of stuff that's been improved through this work for me.
I love it. So I like to wrap up the show because I'm a visionary, and I know you are too, for me and the listeners to kind of witness what's next for you. So it could either be, what's coming up in 2018 for you, or just in general, like what's your big vision? You share with us as little or as much as you want about, what you're creating.
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate that. So my vision, my business, the big thing that I'm really grounded in right now is helping women own their worth to earn their wealth. And I have a program and experience that I'm launching in January called Worth to Wealth. And this is essentially my new platform for bringing this work of combining conscious and subconscious programming to other women entrepreneurs. And it's a group experience. It's my baby. It feels like decades worth of work and practice and experience are being finally codified and brought to life. If you've ever had that experience in your own business, it feels like a birth almost. So the Worth to Wealth experience is really designed to help women first own their worthiness and then reprogram their minds for abundance and rewire their relationship with money. Because in my experience, your inner game is what influences your outer game. So at first, we've got to get you right here. And if we can get you right in here, then you can do anything out there. So that's really my mission, is to help women own their worth, to help women claim their abundance, to help women step into the power of their desires, to be big, to play big, and to claim all of it, to have the confidence that they want, to have the relationships that they want, to have the financial freedom that they want. And more broadly, it's all within this bigger vision that I have, which is to empower women entrepreneurs, to empower women to be independent and autonomous, because I believe that we are entering into a new feminine era. I believe that the matriarch is what is being called to create a conscious healing on our planet. And my mission more broadly is to raise consciousness. So if we are doing the work here as women to create an abundance of wealth, to make an impact and have our contributions be felt in the world, we can reinvest energetically, emotionally, spiritually, and consciously, more consciously, in the healing of our family, our friends, our clients, and people all over the world. So I really believe that women entrepreneurs are more than just business builders. We are all here, I think, on a journey. We are journeying together alongside each other in sisterhood to touch something and to push something out that's never really been done before. And so if I can help just a small percentage of people, of these women, really claim themselves and what they're capable of, then to me, that's just the biggest gift.
Beautiful. Yeah, I was just reading an article yesterday about how energetically our world is entering into a new era of humanity. And we've been in this era where it's been a pyramid structure where there's a top, there's someone on top, and there's all the people hierarchy, underneath them. And that's been the patriarchy. And that we're moving into this new era. And we have been over the last, I think, like 30 years or something, where the pyramids basically are flattening. And that's the era that we're in. And it is much more, like you said, of a matriarchal society where there's a lot more equality, and there's a lot more freedom, but also with that comes a greater responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's what the Worth to Wealth program is about for me, is just, it's a starting place for that journey for those women who feel called to do that work, who really want to own themselves and claim their power.
Beautiful. So tell us quickly where people can find you.
So you can find me at my website, Jessica at jessicageist.com. And then also I have a community that's called Worthy Women. And it's a place for us to get real. And I know you're part of the tribe. We get real about all kinds of shit in there. There is no faking, no hiding. Because one of the things I see with women entrepreneurs is this like masking game that we play with each other. Like, oh my God, everything's perfect. So I'm like blowing that game up. And we get really real about all kinds of stuff in that group. I get really real. Other members of the tribe get real. And we have really beautiful, deep conversations and inspirational conversations too. So you can either join that group. I can send you the link, Bree, and you can include yours. And then also check me out on my website, jessicageist.com.
Perfect. So for everyone listening, thank you for joining us for another fantastic episode of Permission to Leap. I kind of knew what we'd be talking about, but man, I just brain stuff, man. It's so fucking cool. If you're looking to take your next leap, you can always check out my book, Permission to Leap, on Amazon. It will help support you in moving through your leap with more clarity and ease. Because I know I say this every episode, I sound like a broken record, but the world fucking needs you. The world needs more people living an inspired life and making a difference in the world. And like I always say, if you don't believe me, go on Google and click on the news tab, and you will see all sorts of proof of how the world needs you today, not tomorrow, today. So love you all madly. Thank you for joining us. I'll catch you on the next episode of Permission to Leap.